Broadcasting live from the mountains of Montana, get ready for an hour of pure, unapologetic conservative talk radio. Liberals beware, because this is the Wise Conservative Show.
Hello and welcome to episode 119 of the Wise Conservative Show. And wow, we have a lot of stuff to get through, from Kavanaugh and all of the accusers to Michelle Obama coming back into the political spectrum, and even some harassment of Ted Cruz. We have a lot of stuff to get through, but I'm going to start out with, of course, the biggest story of the past 2 weeks, and that's all the people coming out, well, all three of them, and now also an anonymous accuser, so 4 people, coming out and accusing the nominee for the Supreme Court, Brett Kavanaugh, of sexual assault. And I didn't get to cover this last week because I obviously didn't have a show last week. But it's just gotten more and more obvious that these are blatant political attacks, that these aren't true allegations. And I'll get into that a little bit more in just a second. But starting out, I'm going to talk about how Trump is now defending Kavanaugh even more. And he just defended Kavanaugh at a press conference today, saying some pretty strong comments about the situation, and then backtracking a bit at the end in case things don't work out. But this was in response to a question about why the White House did not ask the FBI to investigate these allegations. And the president responded that, quote, "There was nothing to investigate. They didn't know the location, they didn't know the time, they didn't know the year. They didn't know anything." The president then added that even if an investigation found nothing to corroborate Ford's claims, of course the first accuser, he then said, quote, "It's not going to change any of the Democrats' minds." He went on to say, "They're obstructionists. They're actually con artists because they know how quality this man is, and they've destroyed a man's reputation, and they want to destroy it even more, and they know it's a big, fat con job. And they go into a room, and I guarantee you they laugh like hell at what they've pulled off on the media and on the public." Trump added that the Democrats' bitter fight against Kavanaugh would backfire on them in the forthcoming midterm elections, and he also predicted that 3, 4, or 5 Democrats, to quote him, would support the judge's confirmation because they're in states that Trump won by 30 to 40 points, and they're going to give Republicans votes at some point just because they're forced to. Of course, the president has supported Kavanaugh repeatedly throughout these allegations, and Kavanaugh himself has worked repeatedly to defend himself. And tomorrow, there's actually going to be, in case you haven't heard, there's going to be a hearing before the Judiciary Committee where both Kavanaugh and Ford are going to talk to the committee about that first accusation. When asked if he would withdraw Kavanaugh's nomination, Trump did answer, quote, "These are all false to me. These are all false accusations in certain cases. I can only say that what they've done to this man is incredible." And he went on to relate this to how during the 2016 presidential election, there were a lot of baseless claims against Donald Trump that he hired lawyers and people investigated into, and they found that they were false. And then the media didn't report that they weren't true. So he related it to the fact that people have done this in the past as a political act against him. And so he does sympathize with Brett Kavanaugh on the fact that this can happen. And then if you didn't know also, this came out 1 or 2 days ago, the Senate Judiciary Committee is actually going to be voting on Kavanaugh on Friday, and I believe that's why the last accusation came out this morning. But again, I'll get to all of my theories about this, my views on this in just a second. The president then went on to say, people want fame, they want money, they want whatever. So when I see it, I view it differently than someone sitting at home watching television where they say, "Oh, Kavanaugh, this or that." It's happened to me many times. And he continued to support Kavanaugh and say that he doesn't think these claims have any base until pretty much the very end, when he did say that if anything came out that proved them true, that his opinion would be changed, of course, to kind of stay a little more neutral on it and not dig himself into a very huge ditch. There's actually been a study that came out, and I thought it was pretty interesting and not unexpected, but definitely interesting. So the Media Research Center studied the news outlets, mainstream media, on their coverage against Brett Kavanaugh, and they just released this today, so this is a lot of new information. So ABC, CBS, and NBC morning and evening news shows spent nearly 6 hours, or 344 minutes, on sexual misconduct allegations against Kavanaugh. Of course, we know that the White House and Kavanaugh have denied the allegations, but the study's author said, quote, both Kavanaugh and Ford will get equal time to tell their side of the story at Thursday's hearing, which I just mentioned. That's a much fairer forum for Kavanaugh than he's received from the broadcast networks during the past 2 weeks. The study said only a small percentage of the mainstream media's coverage has been devoted to Kavanaugh's denials and the lack of corroboration for all of the accounts, every single one of them, since the scandal exploded, which was 12 days ago now. They also found that 305 minutes of the total airtime was dedicated to Ford's allegations. The study said accounts from the women supporting Kavanaugh, the witnesses' accounts who did not corroborate Ford's story, and Kavanaugh's denials in both cases have collectively only garnered 21 minutes of coverage, compared to the 305 on the allegations. They then added in this study, quote, his flat denial was relegated to a few seconds in lengthy stories about the charges, sometimes no more than a parenthetical clause that reporters mechanically inserted in stories that bombarded viewers with the salacious details of each accusation. So this is the same bias that we've been noticing even with Donald Trump and the accusations against him, or pretty much anything in regards to the Republican Party or conservatism. The liberal media, of course, is just that, the liberal media. And so it's not unexpected that they're going to be dedicating a large proportion. I wish I had done the math to figure out the exact percentage of time that they looked at, but a very large proportion of the time that they looked at was overwhelmingly going over the allegations, and a very little amount was actually towards the people who have said that this didn't happen, the 60-some people from his school and sister schools that have come out saying that this didn't happen and that Kavanaugh would never do this, to Kavanaugh even saying that he didn't do it, or even to the witnesses that were named at the situation who said that this never happened. There's no time for that. The media is using their power, their influence to completely change the outcome of this entire situation. So I'm actually going to talk a bit about how I feel about this now, as I've been hinting at for a little bit. So the first accusation came out, and we already knew that it was sketchy because Feinstein had known about this for months and hadn't released it, so it was obviously already politically timed. Second off, this happened, 35 years ago, and the first person besides for a therapist that is told about this is a high-up politician. That makes no sense whatsoever. When there's a crime, you go to the police, you don't go to a politician. But even if you do think that the politician is the right person to go to, her story, Ford's story, has changed time after time. Within the very first story that she told her therapist, there were 4 men in the room with her. And now she's passing off the 4 men in the room compared to the 2 that she's now saying in the room. as the therapist making a mistake instead of her changing her story constantly. She originally didn't name any names. Now she's naming Kavanaugh. She originally said that there were her plus 4 other people at the party in total. She's since changed that to being 5 or 6 people at the party. Her story has not stayed the same throughout the entire incident. And it's very sketchy when you actually look at it. Now, when you actually look at the people who she names in it, all of them have denied that this ever happened. And there have been an overwhelming number of people that knew Brett Kavanaugh during this time, that knew the accuser, and that have said that Brett Kavanaugh would never do this sort of thing, and have said that he wasn't the person that did this and that this wasn't even true in the beginning. Over 60 women came out and said that, but the news barely gave any coverage to it. Instead, they focused on the 4 or 5 other people that have a history of supporting Democrats and giving money to Bernie Sanders and other Democratic politicians and extremist groups within the left. Those 4 or 5 people that came out and said that they agree with Ford. And this is just the first allegation that has so many holes. Now, then the second allegation comes out. And this one, again, they don't know the place, they don't know the time, they don't even know the year, and they don't know who exactly was there. There's nothing to actually go on and say that this is true. And as I said, for the third one, now I just got the notification this morning about it. And the first thing I saw was Michael Avenatti as the lawyer, and I knew that this was already just a political issue. Avenatti, if you don't know, was the lawyer and still is the lawyer of Stormy Daniels, who of course has had some very political claims in the past couple years. This third allegation, again, doesn't know when it was, just knows that it was in 1 or 2 year span, doesn't know where it was, doesn't know whose house it was at, doesn't know anything except for the fact that Kavanaugh was there. You see, these allegations come out, and the entire way that our nation has functioned is completely changed because Democrats are now viewing it as guilty until proven innocent. These accusations with no backing up, no evidence, no facts behind them, and Democrats are automatically deeming Kavanaugh guilty. The media is automatically deeming Kavanaugh guilty when there's no evidence. They ignore Kavanaugh's viewpoint on all of it. They ignore the people who have come out in support of Kavanaugh on it. The only people they listen to are the accusers, the people who have very deep histories in supporting Democratic candidates and Democratic organizations in the past, and have gone to politicians as their only source of telling people about this. That's not how it actually works. And the fact that Democrats are continually just saying that this is automatically true, these unbacked up claims, all it does is take away credit for when there are actually true claims, when there are actually claims with evidence behind them, like what's happening with the Democratic candidate, Ellison, I believe his name is. He has an ex-girlfriend who is claiming that he abused her, has 911 call evidence, has video of the incident. Democrats are completely ignoring her, saying that her allegations don't matter, even though there's so much more evidence for that incident than anything that has come out against Kavanaugh. You see, they discredit it if it's against a Democrat, but they credit it even with no evidence when it comes against a Republican or a Republican's nomination for a position. When it comes against a conservative. Democrats are using this as a political move, and that's why they have been timed so perfectly to delay the vote on Kavanaugh. because the new cycle for the Supreme Court, I believe, starts on October 1st or very early in October. So they want to delay it just long enough so that not only can they get to the election, but also so he can't be in this next cycle in the Supreme Court, even if he is confirmed. Democrats aren't looking at this as a form of justice. Democrats aren't looking at this as actually legitimate claims. They're looking at this as a political move, as a way to discredit one of the most qualified nominees for the Supreme Court this nation has ever seen. They're trying to disqualify him from the position. They're trying to discredit him and ruin his career, all because they disagree that he was nominated by Donald Trump. He's been in public service for a very long time, and they haven't thought to come forward with all of these accusations until Donald Trump is associated with him. Until Donald Trump nominates him for the Supreme Court. He was a part of the Bush administration, and nothing happened then. These allegations are nothing more than a political move trying to discredit Brett Kavanaugh. And it's honestly very sad and pathetic that Democrats are doing this, because it discredits the real accusations that are out there, like against Keith Ellison, the Democrat, and against many other people in the nation, against Bill Clinton. All of these true, factually backed up accusations are discredited when they claim that these allegations are true with no evidence. And that's the legacy that this current generation of Democrats are going to leave behind. Political moves that are uncalled for and out of hand. Political moves that really aren't going to help anyone and are just going to hurt not only Democrats, not only Brett Kavanaugh's career, but our nation as a whole. I'm going to take a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. This is the Wise Conservative Show.
Hey everybody, Connor Wise here with an exclusive clip from the Wise Conservative Show. Don't go anywhere, I'll be right back.
And we have to continually remember that if we let the wrong people get in power, those liberties can be taken away. We have to remember that government is just a burden on the people, that it's not our savior, that it's not who gives us our rights.
People all across America are waking up and realizing that fake news isn't helping our nation. People are realizing that they don't deliver the facts, nor do they deliver the truth. The fake news era is coming to an end, and that's exactly why Patriot News Radio was created. On Patriot News Radio, you have a wide selection of conservative talk hosts, including myself, with the Wise Conservative Show. Patriot News Radio streams 24/7 on TuneIn Radio, so you can just go to the app or to the website and stream it. Also, if you have a Google Home device, all you have to do is say, "Hey Google, play Patriot News Radio," and there you have it, Patriot News Radio, right in your own home. Patriot News Radio delivers you the facts and the truth 24/7. Patriot News Radio, where America comes to talk.
Ever wanted to learn the history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in less than 10 minutes? Are you looking for the truth about the so-called gender wage gap? Well, my friends, I'll let you in on a little secret. Prager University is a source that I use all the time when preparing for my show, the Jason Veely Program. Dennis Prager and his team have put together a remarkable organization that seeks to explain and spread Americanism through the power of the internet. Their short yet extremely informative videos reach more than 100 million people per year, and they want to reach you as well. Go on YouTube and type in Prager University, or go to prageru.com for all of their latest content. That's Prager, the letter U.com. prageru.com.
Are you having trouble getting a merchant account? Maybe you need an international payment gateway, or you just got rejected by another merchant account provider. No problem. iPayTotal wants your business. Our high-risk merchant accounts allow you to accept all major credit and debit cards. Our Moto payment gateway allows accepting transactions on the phone. iPayTotal delivers payment solutions and products to help grow your business. Contact us now for your payment processing at iPayTotal.com. iPayTotal, your online payments partner.
Calling all young conservatives. Have you ever wanted to write for an online publication? What about host your own conservative radio program? Now you can, thanks to YouthRevolt.org. Youth Revolt is a conservative media network for young people, the goal of which is to educate our fellow Americans, and also to expose the left-wing indoctrination that goes on in classrooms across the country. Become part of a team that is dedicated to taking the country back, one radio program or opinion column at a time. If you're interested, go to YouthRevolt.org and click on Join Us on the top of the page. Fill out our brief questionnaire, and one of our representatives will be in touch with you in no time at all. The time to reclaim our future is now. Be a part of something that's bigger than yourself, and join the movement today. Youth Revolt. Speak without fear.
A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. There are people in this nation that would have you give up your rights, that would have you turn in your guns. We have these people who are in office, we have these people who are marching in our streets that are walking out of their schools. People who think that your right is not important. On the Wise Conservative Show, we know that your rights matter, and we will tell you the truth about your liberties. We will tell you the truth about all the issues happening and the facts around all of these debates. For your daily dose of conservatism, for your daily dose of the facts and the truth. Tune into the Wise Conservative Show every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on Youth Revolt.
While chairing at the UN Security Council meeting today, President Trump really took aim at both China and Iran, as well as a few other nations. Welcome back to the Wise Conservative Show. I'm your host, Connor Wise. And President Trump really went on, well, a political rampage, you could say, today in the UN. It was a meeting on non-proliferation, and well, Donald Trump kind of really attacked China for issues in the midterms, with meddling in them, and promised sanctions tougher than ever before on Iran for certain issues. He spoke first, and within minutes, the first victim was Syria, Iran, and Russia. He claimed that the, quote, Syrian regime's butchery was enabled by Iran and Russia. He then accused the Iranian regimes of exporting, quote, violence, terror, and turmoil. He went on to say, it illicitly procures sensitive items to advance its ballistic missile program and proliferates these missiles all across the Middle East. The regime is the world's leading sponsor of terror and fuels conflict across the region and far beyond. He did thank the trinity of them for, quote, substantially slowing down their attack on the Idlib province, but he did warn after that, get the terrorists, but I hope the restraint continues. The world is watching. He also defended the administration's decision to pull out of the Iran nuclear deal and blasted what he called a horrible one-sided deal that allowed Iran to continue its path towards a nuclear bomb and gave the regime a cash lifeline when they needed it the most. They were in big, big trouble, he said. They needed cash. We gave it to them. Of course, the Trump administration has reimposed a lot of economic sanctions on Iran just last month and plans to impose sanctions on Iran's crude oil exports in November. Trump said after that, the U.S. will pursue additional sanctions tougher than ever before to counter the entire range of Iran's malign conduct. He then warned any individual or entity who fails to comply with these sanctions will face severe consequences. He also moved on to accuse China of meddling in the November midterms, saying it was pushing it back against Trump's tariffs that he has placed on goods, of course, entering the U.S. from China. He said, quote, regrettably, we found that China has been attempting to interfere in our upcoming 2018 election coming up in November against my administration. They do not want me or us to win because I am the first president ever to challenge China on trade, and we are winning on trade. We are winning on every level. Now, he didn't give any specifics about the alleged interference, but he seemed to be referring back to a point he made in a tweet earlier this month when he accused China of, quote, actively trying to impact and change our election by attacking our farmers, ranchers, and industrial workers because of their loyalty to him. The foreign minister, Wang Yi, responded to Trump's comments at the meeting, saying that China follows a principle of non-interference in other countries' domestic affairs. Trump's remarks, of course, come a day after a fiery speech to the UN General Assembly, where he also had harsh words for Iran, saying, quote, we cannot allow the world's leading sponsor of terrorism to possess the planet's most dangerous weapons. We cannot allow a regime that chants death to America and that threatens Israel with annihilation to possess the means to deliver a nuclear warhead to any city on Earth. Just can't do it. So this is the Donald Trump that we elected. This is the Donald Trump that Americans wanted in the Oval Office. The Donald Trump that stands up to our enemies, that stands up to those that are waging war against us, whether it's politically, economically, or even just threatening us. Of course, Iran has been a huge sponsor of terror in the region. We know this. We also know that Iran has been a huge hater of America, for a lack of a better word. And I mean, they've commemorated events of capturing our naval sailors with a statue. They've held our sailors and put it on live TV. The nuclear deal was just them manipulating the U.S. Iran has multiple times chanted death to America. They've written death to Israel as well on the side of ballistic missiles launched towards Israel. Oh, Iran's not a friendly nation, whatever. No matter what, they're always going to hate us. They're always going to hate our freedoms with this current regime. And it's good to actually be calling them out face to face like that. It's good to be calling out China for their terrible work that they've been doing, trying to influence our election. I believe it. Every country is, of course, going to deny it. Russia would deny it if they actually interfered in elections, which, of course, they flooded it with some articles and stuff like that. Nothing on the level of what China is being accused of. If we interfered in another election, our nation would deny it as well. So China's denying of this does not mean anything. And I believe that they would try to interfere in our election. It just makes sense. And Donald Trump calling them out, it kind of breaks the typical political ways. The way Donald Trump acts, of course we knew this from the beginning. He's not a politician or not a career politician, so he doesn't deliver himself or carry himself as such. So when Donald Trump goes to the UN, his mission isn't to please other nations. His mission isn't to act all nice, to portray himself as a well-rounded diplomat that doesn't hold a grudge. Because he's not there to make himself look good. Donald Trump is there to make America better. To call out the people who are fighting against America. To call out the people who want to harm America. Donald Trump is there to put America first. America coming first is something we haven't seen in a long time until the Trump presidency. Obama definitely didn't put us first. The nuclear deal is enough evidence alone on that issue. See, there's a lot of people, especially the liberal media, that are freaking out over Trump's comments at this meeting. They're saying that he's unpresidential, that any other president, President Obama or President Clinton, President Hillary Clinton, they would never do this sort of thing. That they'd represent America as a proper diplomat. But again, that just proves how they're not connected to the American people. The American people don't want a well-rounded politician. The American people don't want someone who's been in politics for their whole life so long that they found a way to get around everything without actually answering, without standing up for a certain point, without standing up for America. The American people don't want some lying person running the nation or talking to other nations. The American people have proven that they don't want that politician in there. They want an outsider. They want someone who can relate to the common American. And the common American wouldn't go there and pretend to be nice to everyone. The common American would say, yeah, we have issues. And this is how we're going to solve them. This is how America is going to come out on top. And you better get along with the plan. It's going back to America being the number one superpower, to America treating its citizens first, protecting its citizens and our economic interests. Donald Trump has found a way to encapsulate in his delivery at the UN the way the voters wanted him to, the way no politician would. Donald Trump has proven that he's not a seasoned politician, that he's not this career politician. He's proven that he's one of us, someone who speaks their mind. And that's one of the most American things you can do. And I'm happy to have Donald Trump doing this, standing up for our nation. But something I'm not happy about. We all know that Maxine Waters is crazy, and I've talked about it time after time when she called on her supporters and Democrats and liberals to confront Republicans and conservatives. Well, the latest target, this just happened Monday, of that harassment campaign is Senator Ted Cruz. So what happened was he was eating at a restaurant in Washington, D.C. with his wife. Well, a very large group of protesters surrounded him. Now, this group of protesters are calling themselves Smash Racism DC. They hounded Cruz over his support for Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh, of course, because he's facing all these allegations, and these people believe he's guilty until proven innocent, just as I mentioned before. The activists shouted, "We believe survivors," and sexist, racist, anti-gay, all while another woman from the group quizzed the Texas GOP senator on whether he believes the woman making the allegations against Kavanaugh. She continually asked, "How are you going to vote?" And that was all while Cruz got up and had to kind of force his way through so that he could leave the restaurant with his wife. A video posted by the group to Twitter shows Cruz struggling to get through the crowd, saying, quote, "Excuse me, let my wife through." And, well, the group seemed rather hostile. And after Cruz eventually left the restaurant, the group and the crowd cheered rather loudly. Of course, there's a long string of these very high-profile Republicans being surrounded by crowds, being essentially driven out of different places because of fears, because of these supporters of Maxine Waters, these extremists on the left that are threatening people just for being conservative. On Twitter, the former Bush White House press secretary, Ari Fleischer, voiced concern that these protests are spinning out of control, and I agree, they really are. He said, quote, "I lived in D.C. for 21 years. There were many contested, emotional battles, but this is awful. Washington has become a sick town," and that's a great way to describe it. Ever since Maxine Waters urged on these extremists, Republicans haven't been able to be safe even in their own homes. And after she said that at this one rally that they should go out, they should harass them, she also doubled down her marks on a TV show, telling people to go out and even at restaurants or gas stations to surround these people to make them feel uncomfortable. Now, I've talked about Maxine Waters and how crazy she is, crazy Maxine, a lot. And I've talked about her remarks a lot. And at some point, I did expect these extremist supporters of hers to stop being so extreme, to stop actually threatening these people during their day-to-day lives. But the craziness just continues. The extremism continues. And it seems like the entire Democratic Party is embracing this extremism as they're refusing to say that this shouldn't be happening. The Democratic Party is encouraging people to threaten Republicans, to threaten conservatives, all because of their ideology. Now, I know that these people very continually call Republicans and conservatives fascist. They continually call us fascist as these close-minded people. But then they go out and they try to suppress people, to threaten people that have a different viewpoint. These extremists within the Democratic Party, which is growing tremendously, these extremists are, they're the fascists. They're the ones who are closer to fascism than any conservative in this nation, any Republican that's been elected. Because I haven't seen any elected Republicans saying that we need to attack Democrats because of their viewpoints or attack leftists, Bernie Sanders supporters, or anyone like that, just because of their viewpoints or because of any reason. But there's elected officials in the Democratic Party calling for the threatening, for the attacking of conservatives, of Republicans, and that is one of the most fascist things anyone could ever do. I'm going to take one last quick commercial break. When we come back, Michelle Obama is back in the limelight. You don't want to miss this next segment. After this commercial break, this is the Wise Conservative Show.
Hey everybody, Connor Wise here with an exclusive clip from the Wise Conservative Show. Don't go anywhere, I'll be right back. And that's how a government should be run, folks. You can't legislate based on emotion, based on morality. You have to legislate based on the truth and the facts. It's something that Democrats seem to have struggled with, and something that they continue to struggle with when it comes to the immigration debate.
Ever wanted to learn the history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in less than 10 minutes? Are you looking for the truth about the so-called gender wage gap? Well, my friends, I'll let you in on a little secret. Prager University is a source that I use all the time when preparing for my show, the Jason Veely Program. Dennis Prager and his team have put together a remarkable organization that seeks to explain and spread Americanism through the power of the internet. Their short yet extremely informative videos reach more than 100 million people per year, and they want to reach you as well. Go on YouTube and type in Prager University, or go to prageru.com for all of their latest content. That's Prager, the letter U.com. prageru.com.
People all across America are waking up and realizing that fake news isn't helping our nation. People are realizing that they don't deliver the facts, nor do they deliver the truth. The fake news era is coming to an end, and that's exactly why Patriot News Radio was created. On Patriot News Radio, you have a wide selection of conservative talk hosts, including myself with the Wise Conservative Show. Patriot News Radio streams 24/7 on TuneIn Radio, so you can just go to the app or to the website and stream it. Also, if you have a Google Home device, all you have to do is say, "Hey Google, play Patriot News Radio," and there you have it, Patriot News Radio, right in your own home. Patriot News Radio delivers you the facts and the truth 24/7. Patriot News Radio, where America comes to talk.
And that, class, is why America is the worst country in the history of the world.
Are you sick of your professors telling you lies?
Now remember, children, if you're white, it means you're privileged. Don't ever forget that.
Do you sit through class convinced that your head is going to explode at any given moment? Sounds like you could use some backup. Visit youthrevolt.org for exclusive content produced by young conservatives for young conservatives. Youth Revolt features a dedicated team of radio hosts, political columnists, and video bloggers, all of whom are 100% committed to taking back the future of this country. So what are you waiting for? Tune out your Marxist professor and visit youthrevolt.org now.
A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. There are people in this nation that would have you give up your rights, that would have you turn in your guns. We have these people who are in office, we have these people who are marching in our streets, that are walking out of their schools. People who think that your right is not important. On the Wise Conservative Show, we know that your rights matter, and we will tell you the truth about your liberties. We will tell you the truth about all the issues happening and the facts around all of these debates. For your daily dose of conservatism, for your daily dose of the facts and the truth. Tune into the Wise Conservative Show every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on Youth Revolt.
You know what I was thinking when I got up this morning? I was thinking that I wanted more Michelle Obama in politics again, that I wanted more of the Obama family because, well, after all, people do believe that they were the greatest political achievement, the greatest presidency ever. Well, sadly, it actually came true. Michelle Obama is back in the news, and, well, she's kind of breaking tradition. The same way that Barack Obama did in the past. Of course, we all know that Barack Obama broke with tradition to criticize Donald Trump, his successor, which hasn't really happened in the past. And now his wife, Michelle, is speaking out, telling a crowd in Las Vegas on Sunday night that she is frustrated with the current political scene. She said, quote, "Believe me, I am frustrated too. I am sick of all the chaos and nastiness of our politics. It's exhausting." Now, of course, this is her first public appearance since leaving the White House almost 2 years ago. She actually appeared this time on behalf of the nonprofit When We All Vote that she launched in July. She claims that its goal is to increase voter turnout and says that it is nonpartisan, but there's a large majority of people that say that that's very inaccurate, calling the group's rallies a little more than a voter registration drive. Quote, "We get the leaders we vote for." Now, this is her at the crowd at the rally in Las Vegas. "We get the leaders we vote for. We get the policies we vote for. And when we don't vote, that's when we wind up with government of, by, and for other people. Because you can't vote some of the time and then sit out. You know, we saw that happen. We experienced that. We had a great president." Now, that's her believing that she's being nonpartisan because she didn't mention names, but we all know that she's saying that Donald Trump isn't for the true Americans, that he's not a great president, that Obama was the only great president that we've had. And she says that she doesn't care who people voted for as long as they cast a ballot, but it really seems like with the groups that they're targeting, which are mostly minority groups and groups that are primarily voting Democratic, that it seems like a way for Democratic voters to get more engaged. For her to actually get Democrats out there to vote in the midterms, even though she claims it's nonpartisan. And I don't know, it's just another lie that comes from the left. They always claim that it's nonpartisan, but we all know that she's trying to sway the election because they hate Donald Trump being in the Oval Office. They hate Republicans winning, and they think that when Republicans are in power, America is worse off. They think that Obama was the only great president this nation has had. She went on to say, "You might not like living with the consequences of other people's choices, but that's what happens when you stay home. You're essentially putting your future in the hands of others." And she just made a bunch of rather vague comments that always reference the fact that if they don't get out and vote for who they want, as she's highly hinting at Democratic people, then we'll have another Donald Trump in office. And that would be the end of our nation. But we all know that it wouldn't be. And we know that the Obama presidency were some of the worst 8 years that this nation has ever seen. That the recession hit us very hard in this nation. That the stimulus package didn't do what it was supposed to do, even though Obama claimed it did. That when he bailed out giant banks, he wasn't actually helping our nation. And he wasn't helping the people. That Obama didn't actually do most of the things that he promised, and pretty much his entire legacy was based on driving jobs out of America through regulations and higher taxes, and trying to implement socialized healthcare, which has since, of course, been a disaster, and it's a good thing that a lot of it has been dismantled at this point. See, Obama's legacy was terrible, and there's pretty much nothing left of it. Obama's legacy wasn't helping our nation, but they're going to continue to campaign on the fact that they will bring back another Obama-like candidate if people vote for Democrats. And I've seen that a lot. People who are running as Democrats try to portray themselves as the new Barack Obama, try to portray themselves as the next person who will invoke change and invoke the policies that people want, just like Obama said. That they'll try and fix the healthcare, which by their standards means socialized healthcare. That they'll try and give free education to people. That they'll increase regulations on industries, that they'll raise the corporate tax rate again, that they'll raise taxes on everyone again. Because they think that's going to win them an election, and that's what the American people want. But I don't know anyone in their right mind that thinks that having a higher tax on themselves is a good thing, that thinks that raising taxes is a good thing. But it seems like every policy that these Democrats are running on involves raising taxes to fund it. It seems like pretty much every policy, whether it's universal basic income, it's free college, it's free health care, whatever the policy is, it's going to cost the taxpayer. And that's on top of them wanting to raise the taxpayers' taxes even more already, without even those programs. It's a strange message to be campaigning on. And they think it'll work. They think that running as this new Obama candidate, this new, semi-socialist candidate, and a lot of times socialist candidate, is what's going to actually help our nation and connect with the American people. But we don't want more taxes, and we don't want socialized policies. That's all for today's episode of the Wise Conservative Show. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. As always, I'm your host, Connor Wise. You can find me on Spreaker.com, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and a lot of more places. Go ahead and like my page on Facebook. Just search up the Wise Conservative Show. I'd like to once again thank you all for tuning in. And as always, God bless.